Alrighty. I'm just going to do a quick live stream check. Yep. I was busy getting my local environment set up, and then weird things happened, and I couldn't download. I couldn't use WP-CLI to download core WordPress files, so I'm busy doing that manually at the moment. So please bear with me while I finish that. If you are in the chat, please do say hi. If you can't hear the background music, let me know. If it's too loud or I'm too loud, let me know. You can always adjust some of the sound effects. So I'm just going to finish setting up my local, and then I'll dive into what the plan is for today. Let's just extract this. And let's grab all of that. Pop it in there. And then we'll just run through the 5 minutes install quickly. That button was targeted. Okay. Okay, we have a WordPress site. There, can't type my password properly. So for today's experiment, I would like to try and see whether Cursor, specifically Claude in Cursor, maybe we'll switch to one of the OpenAI options as well, how well it handles plugin vulnerabilities. So my goal today is I'm going to hopefully not write any code. I think the only code that I will allow myself to write is if I have to copy and paste something in the terminal. I'm going to, there's a couple of plugins that I'm going to set up in my local environment. The first one is a plugin that I wrote. It's essentially a plugin that I built to support a lesson for Learn WordPress. And I used all of the examples in the plugin developer handbook. So let's go to... No, that's not where I want to be. That was so weird. The song just had someone knocking, and I thought someone was knocking at the door. So in the plugin handbook, there's a whole section on security, and I used all the examples in that handbook to create this plugin. And there's a sort of insecure version, which I think is the main version. I just want to check. Yeah, I'm not doing any kind of sanitization or anything else. There's also a couple of coding standards issues, so that's cool. So essentially what I want to do is I want to take this plugin and I want to get it ready so that we can, I want to see if I can run the plugin check checks against it and see if we can get to a point where the code, the AI tool can fix all the problems. Then we run it through plugin check and we see if any problems come up. And then if we do get problems, I want to revert those problems back to the AI code editor and see if it can fix them. So that's the plan. Because that process can theoretically be automated. And so that's the idea, to see whether this actually works. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the code to see whether it actually is good. Well, to the best of my knowledge, good. But yeah, I'm kind of keen to see. The security vulnerabilities are kind of common ones, so I'm expecting it to do pretty well. because the code has been out there for a while. I have lessons that I've created. There's things that have been written about it. The documentation is there. So it should be able to do a really good job. So we might have to create some other types of vulnerabilities to kind of test the process. But let's see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it does a horrible job. Who knows? So I'm going to start with the first one, which is my code. And then there's another one that was actually published in 2013 on the plugins, the Make Plugins blog. Don't think I copied that. Let me do it this way. So this was an intentionally vulnerable plugin. It was developed by John Cave back in 2013. And he kindly added the code to a GitHub gist or gist. Gist, I think would be the right thing because it's GitHub, so gist. And it has a lot of similar. It has the main plugin file, and then it includes the vulnerable.php code. Now, what's interesting is it does have load intentional vulns. So that might, it says a fake plugin contain, so it kind of gives the AI agent some clues. Whether the agent understands those clues, I don't know. But let's see what it does. Let's see if it fixes these issues. And there's actually a how to fix the plugin post where John actually dives into all the fixes, which has been around since 2013. So theoretically, the plugin would be the AI agent would be able to read this content from its LLM somewhere. I don't know. So it's certainly something we can use to review the fixed plugin and see if we agree, if there's time. If there is time for that, maybe we can do that as well. But that's the goal today. Let's see how it handles insecure plugins. So let's start off by cloning this plugin. So this is in my, if you want to check this code out, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to paste this in the chat if anybody wants to check that out. Why doesn't Command V work in OBS? I don't know. But anyway, let's check out this code. Okay. So here is my cursor. Let me open up this, by the way, if you're interested, completely off topic. This is a little app that I wrote for my kid. I'll show you quickly what it does. It is a times table tester. So my kid is currently in grade 4 and he's busy practicing his timetables. So I wrote a little tester game for him. And it gives you some timetables that you have to figure out. And then there's a results screen and all kinds of other fun things. So that's what I was working on there. If you want to check that out, you can actually. It's on my GitHub somewhere. It's not that one. It's this one. So this is a plugin. This is a plugin. This is an app, a web app written in React, purely written using AI tools. But it's a fun little game. If you have a grade school child in the house, great way for them to practice their time tables. Okay, let me get back on track here. So let's open. Do I have? No, I won't. So let's open that site. Okay, I'm going to open that. And I'm going to check out the plugin. Let's go cd.p content plugins. Git clone. No, not that one. The other one. The one I had in my previous clipboard. Now I'm pretty sure I had a clipboard tool installed somewhere, but I can't remember whether I did or not. So I'm going to just go back. Find this. There we go. think I installed a clipboard tool in my workstation, but not here. Anyway. There we go. Okay, so we have insecure plugin. All right. Yes, all right. IntelliFence, whatever. I think this window is not. Yes, there we go. It's not maximized on the screen, so that's great. Okay, let us move this down here. I'm going to close this for now. Okay. So let's start giving the agent some context. Just out of interest sake, if you're interested in this kind of thing, I have set up some cursor rules for my environment, and they are here. I don't have specific project rules. I'm not going on a project by project basis. But I do have some general rules. So I have, when creating WordPress plugins and themes, always use coding standards. I have something about terminal commands. I have something about markdown files. But that's about it. That's about all the configuration that I have set up. So I tend to give the context to the agent every time. I probably could move some of that context to the cursor rules, but I'm often not working in the same spaces. I'm often doing something in a plugin or a theme or outside of WordPress. Outside of WordPress, but in the editor or wherever. So I tend to give context in the agent, in the new agent window every time. Okay. So let's add this file to the context. I think you can just drag it. Yes. All right. This is a plugin. This is a. Actually, let's go back a step. Okay. The project we are working in is a WordPress store. We will focus on a specific plugin in that install, namely the WP Learn plugin security plugin. Explore the plugin directory to understand the plugin's functionality. I'm expecting it to explore that specific directory. It does seem to have done that, so that's great. So now it's checking the file, security concepts. Okay, the plugin follows WordPress coding standards and best practices. Okay, so you see it started making some changes already. It started suggesting some changes to the plugin code, which is interesting. Okay. That's something that Cursor tends to do if you tell it not to. If you don't tell it not to, which is a little bit frustrating sometimes. But it's fine. So I'm just going to reject all of these suggestions for now. I think it might be something built into the agent, like whenever it reads a file and makes suggestions, I'm going to reject them for the time being. Okay, so the plugin follows WordPress coding standards and best practices. I don't know if I agree with that, because there's definitely some coding standards errors that I saw earlier, unless... Yeah, there's definitely some coding standards errors there, but that's fine. It has proper security measures in place. Checking for direct file access. Really? Disagree? So that's... Oh. No, it doesn't even have that. It doesn't even have the abs path check. So no. No, you're wrong. It defines important constants for version tracking and file paths. Yeah, okay, it does that. It uses an object-oriented approach. No. It's very much not using an object-oriented approach. And then it says the plugin seems to be structured with a plugin file, includes a directory containing the main class file. I do not see that. I disagree vehemently with your statements there, Mr. AI agent. Possibly a languages directory? No. Okay, so that's interesting. So I'm going to say, what am I going to say? I'm going to say Are you sure about the plugin's structure? Okay, I apologize for my previous incorrect assessment. Looking at the actual file contents now, I can see this is a different plugin structure. It appears to be a deliberately bad coded plugin, as stated in its description. I mean, it's there. It's right there for you. Creates a form submission. Yes. Ajax functionality. Several security issues. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. No non-verification. Unsanitized post data. Direct SQL queries. Unescaped output. No input validation. Single file plugin. Yes. Basic constants. Global functions. Mixes concerns. Database form handling. Admin UI. All in one file. This appears to be a teaching tool to demonstrate common WordPress security issues and bad practices that should be avoided in production code. Well done. Second time round. Okay. So now I wonder if I'd have given it more context, it would have got better at that. I don't know. Anyway, so let's focus on the security vulnerabilities. Let's start by saying address the security vulnerabilities. What I want to do as well, I want to if I can copy these. I want to copy these and put them in a note somewhere. I'm going to bring this on screen so you can see what I'm doing here. Because I want to focus on the security vulnerabilities first, and then the coding standard issues. So I just want to make a note of that for myself. Okay. Address the security vulnerabilities first. Do not make any suggestions. First, list all the possible... I want to see what it does. Security vulnerabilities. In a security vulnerabilities markdown file. Inside the plugin directory. Okay, let's see what that does. Okay, so let's see what that's given us. So I'm trying to remember the functionality of this plugin, but I'll see. Okay, missing nonce verification. I do remember there's a nonce missing. Okay, good. Unsanitized input data. Agree. There's definitely input data sanitization missing. Post name, post email. Cool. Unvalidated input. Missing ESET checks for required fields. Okay, fair enough. Missing email validation. Okay. Database vulnerabilities, unprotected SQL queries. Yeah. Missing WPDB prepare. Fair. Direct variable interpolation in SQL queries. Ajax vulnerabilities, unsecured Ajax endpoint. Nonce verification, capability checks, input validation, sanitization. Good. Unescaped output. Yes. Unescaped shortcode output. Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. Database schema vulnerabilities, unprotected table creation, location there, risk SQL injection during plugin activation. Ah, that's an interesting one. General security issues, no capabilities checks, unauthorized access admin features. Is there an admin feature in the plugin? I have to remember now. Admin EQ scripts, front-end assets, mission form, process the form data, create the page. I think this is okay. But I suppose you could add a capability check here if this gets called by mistake. I do think maybe I did that. But okay, we'll see what it does. No rate limiting. I mean, that's interesting that it picked that up. Form spam and submission and database flooding. Missing submission limits or capture. Okay. Insufficient error handling, information disclosure through errors. That's kind of cool. I like that. That's one I didn't think of. So that's a pretty good start. Hey, Chris. Sorry, I was getting distracted by reading through what the agent was telling me. Okay, so that's a pretty good start, I think. Let's use this and let's see what happens if we fix it step by step. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the shortcode to a page. Oh wait, I haven't activated the plugin yet. Duh. I also want to do something. I always forget to do this. Just looks so much better. Okay, so let's go to plugins. Let's cancel that. Profile. Let's go to plugins. Let's activate plugin security. I also want to run my little debug app because that will enable debugging on this site. And that will also allow me to see if there are any errors at any point in time. Another app I built with AI, by the way. So I'm going to stick that off to the side and we can bring it back up if we need to. Actually, I'll just leave it on screen, but I'll tap back to it if I need to. Okay, let's create a page. Let's say, and this is a new thing in WordPress, so I'm going to turn that off. Contact us. Let's add a shortcode. Here's the shortcode. That should just work. Okay, there's the form. It looks terrible, I know. But I should be able to submit the name or any kind of other dodginess. Should make that does work. Oh, I haven't created the pages. Okay, I need to create those pages. So it's form success and form error page. So let's do those quickly. And the only reason I did this is because I didn't want to have to process the data and redirect and blah, blah, blah. So I just made it redirect to specific slugs. So it's form success page. Thank you. The form has been submitted. Cheers, Chris. You got ice those cupcakes. So form success page, and then what was the other one? Form error page. Tray again, honestly. And then what I want to do is I want to link this back to the page. Okay, there we go. I should have done all this beforehand. I need permalinks created. Okay, let's publish that. And then let's go enable permalinks. Let's try it again. page. Okay. So if we go please try again, that'll take us to the contact us page. And if we enter the details. Submits should redirect to success. Yay. And then if we check, there should be an admin page which shows us the submissions. Yay. Okay. So that's all working. All right. Good. Chris is lurking. That makes me nervous. All right, let's see how this thing can handle some security issues. Let's see what happens. So let's start with the form processing vulnerabilities. Start by fixing the form processing vulnerabilities. I think just that whole section. Okay, let's see what it gives us. Okay. Okay, that seems to be a coding standard fix. Okay, it's escaped the attribute, which is good. It's added the nonce field, which is good. It has... don't know why that name and email fields have been updated. Oh, because I had it wrong. Interesting. Oh, I didn't even know that. Label for email, but this is name. Oh, well done. That's not really a security issue, but well done for fixing the error in that code. This is email. It looks like it's added required to the email address, which I didn't see. And name. Do I need required? No, I don't mind if it adds those. Then it's verifying if the form is submitted. If it's doing the same thing, but it's okay. So it's cleaning up the coding standards issue there. That's great. Verifying the nonce. Good. Otherwise, redirect to the error page. Fair enough. Is that the right? Yes, that is the right constant. Okay, I'm happy with that. Validate required fields. If name and email are set, redirect to the error page. Fair. Sanitize. Sanitize text field WP unslash. Okay. Sanitize email. I don't think you need that. I don't think you need both. But we'll accept it. Let's see what happens. I think it's a bit of overkill there because I think sanitizing does it as well, but that's fine. Validating the email, good. Preparing the query, excellent. Using exit instead of die. I don't know if that's worse or better. I just like using die because I like the word in my code. I'm weird that way. But exit is just as good. I think die is just a wrapper function for exit, to be honest. So it's basically like removing a function call, which is fine. Okay. And that was that. Cool. Okay. So let's move on. So then let's say fix any database vulnerabilities. Now a bunch of these have already been fixed. Fix any... Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, I have no plans of testing this until everything's been done. And the reason for that is because that is essentially how a... Well, is it? Let me put it this way. If you're going to automate this, would you necessarily automate it so that it fixes the first thing and then runs some tests and then fixes the next thing and runs some tests? Or would you just automate it to fix the stuff and then run all the tests? That's an interesting question. So I'm kind of going to lean towards the second option just because I kind of want to make it a bit more difficult. So I want it to sort of break itself, because that's what I've noticed these coding tools tend to do. Like the more you let them code, the more they break previous things. Because we are checking through the code, I'll be able to see if it starts doing dodgy things. But I kind of want to just let it run and just see what it does and see what we end up with. So that's what I'm going to do. So then let's say fix any database vulnerabilities. Now some of these should be fixed already from the last run through. But let's see what it does. Okay. Use WP video table creation is not necessarily, as the table name is already prefixed and controlled. So then why are you rewriting the code? I suppose because of the char set. Okay, fine. Add the char set. I don't care. It's not a security issue. But anyway, this is interesting that it's actually saying I don't need to do this because it's already prefixed. Anyway, I like the comment. I suppose the comment is useful. This is, I think, correct as well. I think require once doesn't have to be called like a function. So that's more of a just coding fix. Not a bad one. Don't have a problem with it, which is interesting. Then let's keep going. Let's see if there's anything else. Doesn't look like there's anything else. Oh, wait, here we go. Okay. Okay. Using prepare even though there are no variables for consistency. Is that a bad thing? I mean, it certainly sets a standard. So I wouldn't say it's a bad thing. Interesting. We'll leave it. We'll see what happens. Okay. Validating the post ID. Now, this is not a database error. This is not a database error, but this is picking up that there's a post ID issue. So it's kind of... I feel like it's just checking for additional vulnerabilities. It's not focusing on what we've told it to, because this is listed further down on the list, but it picks it up. I mean, it's not wrong, so I will allow it. Oh, it's because there is a query here, so it kind of scanned the whole function and just picked up issues in the whole function. That kind of makes sense. Okay, using delete method, that's fine. I have no problem with that. Okay, and then it's using WP send JSON success or error instead of just return WP send JSON. I don't know. I don't know enough about the JSON response stuff to know whether that's better or worse. It sounds better to me. It's a success versus an error. Probably going to set up different headers, which is a good thing. So yeah, I have no problem with that. Okay, let's see what's next. What about any Ajax vulnerabilities? Let's see if there are any Ajax vulnerabilities. There might not be any left. Fix any Ajax vulnerabilities. Now, what is interesting about this is one plugin file. It's, I think, probably easier for the AI agent to scan the one file, check for issues. It would be interesting to do this if it was like a multi-file plugin, like maybe some class structure going on. I would love to run this on a bigger plugin. See what it does. But I don't know which one to use because I don't want to point out somebody else's vulnerabilities if they're true vulnerabilities. But it could be a fun experiment. So if you're watching this, or you're watching this later on YouTube, and you own a plugin or you build a plugin and you wouldn't mind me going through your plugin and seeing what the AI agent picks up, I won't submit them as like one big PR. I'll submit them as individual PRs. But if you'd like to see what comes out of it, I'm game. So hit me up in Slack or on social media and let me know. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. All right, so we've got nonce happening. Localized script, Ajax URL, nonce confirm. Okay, so it's sending some kind of confirmation message. So let's accept that. Let's see what else there might be. Okay, there's the Ajax hook. So now we're checking whether someone can delete things, can't delete things, which is exactly what we want. So checking if the current user can manage options, checking if there's a nonce. So this is all looking good to me. There we go. Checking if there's an ID. If there's not an ID, returning an error. Returning maybe a better error, which is fair. So now it's actually improving its own suggestions. It's obviously seen this and gone, hey, we might want to do this a better way. So that's interesting. So I'll accept that. But this is interesting. This is where the whole AI coding thing does become interesting, because I found with Cursor, it does tend to be very almost over eager, which might not be a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just interesting. I certainly have learned things about things that are available that I didn't know were there using Copilot and Cursor and those things. So it can also be used as a learning tool, which is extremely interesting to me. Okay, let's check for any output escaping issues. Oh, I just saw this here. It says you'll need to update your JavaScript file to include the nonce in the Ajax request to handle a new response format. You might want to get back to that. I didn't see that earlier. So I'm going to make a note about that. Okay, so let's go through these. Okay, so now it's doing escaping and it's adding all kinds of fun things. It's adding scopes to the table rows and things, which is interesting. It's doing some coding standards fixes, which is great. It's actually updating. Now look at this. It's actually updating the header from just admin to form submissions, which is not a bad thing. Admin means, I mean, what does admin? Admin means nothing. So that's interesting. But that's one of the reasons why maybe I needed to give the agent more prompting, better prompting, and say, hey, don't make changes to functionality, just fix the security vulnerabilities. So something to be aware of when you're using these things. You do need to be very specific about what you want it to do. It's adding all kinds of fun things over here. So let's see what that gives us at the end. Okay. So that's that. Let's move on. Let's check for any database schema vulnerabilities. We just did output escaping. Yes. Let's do the database schema vulnerabilities. Fix any database schema vulnerabilities. Okay, now this is interesting. It's actually saying global is a parameter of this function, which it isn't. So I'm going to reject this. It's basically just repeating itself here, so I'm going to reject that. It's setting up the maximum lengths out here and then applying them over there. And it's adding some keys, which it wasn't originally. Which don't think this is necessary, to be honest. So I'm going to reject. I'm gonna reject it. I'm gonna reject it. I'm gonna reject that. This is just a comment. All right, this is very interesting. It's actually suggesting some plugin uninstallation stuff, which I didn't ask it to do. I just asked it to fix database schema issues. I don't want a plugin uninstallation. So I'm going to reject those changes. I'm going to reject those changes. I'm going to reject those changes. That was interesting. I did not expect that. Okay. I'm pretty sure this is, as I said earlier, I'm pretty sure this is incorrect because I'm pretty sure the way I'm doing this is all fine. Because it's hooked into the activation hook. But if you know different, let me know. But as far as I know, this is okay. So that is interesting. This one seems to be an incorrect, a false positive. Anyway, let's go back to this earlier note. I'm going to say, okay. So let's open the JavaScript file. And let's say the JavaScript file, let's add it as context. I think it already is added, but I'll add it anyway. Needs to be updated to include the nonce in the Ajax request from an earlier security fix. It also needs to handle the new response format. Let's see what that does. Before I forget, there was actually this functionality here to delete the lines. We didn't test it, but trust me, it does work. Or it did work last time I checked it anyway. So let's see what that does. Okay. Oh, look, it's taking out some of my console logs. I have no problem with that. It's also changed the this button function name, which I'm pretty sure that's a WordPress coding standard difference. Like, I don't think the WordPress coding standards allow camel case and function names even in JavaScript. I know that it's used, I think it's used in Gutenberg a bit. So that's interesting. But that's fine. So let's accept that. Let's accept that. It's adding the nonce, so accept that. The alerts and things are fine. It's even adding some fails. I'm perfectly okay with that. All right. So I'm not too worried about the rate limiting for now. I'm okay with insufficient error handling. I want to do a check for any capability checks. So let's say check if there are any other missing capability checks. Now it's saying they need checks, and then it's saying here are the necessary changes. So let's see what it suggests. Now it's getting the IP address. And it's doing the rate limiting, which I didn't ask for. See what I'm saying? It starts doing its own thing after a while. It's kind of scary. Okay, rate limiting. I'm not going to worry about rate limiting right now. We probably should. I really don't care. So it's fine. We can leave the rate limiting out. Check if the user has access. Now this, as far as I know, because I'm setting up the admin submenu page, the way I'm setting it up, as far as I know, this is actually fine. But it's not a bad idea to do the check anyway, so I'll allow it this time. Because somebody might figure out how to access the URL and then try and access it. So it's a possible. I mean, the chances are very slim, but it is possible. So I'm okay with that one. Get form submissions. That's fine with that as well. Same story. Check submission rate. I don't care at all. It's probably a good thing to do. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to do, but for the purposes of this example, I'm not too worried about it. But yes, for a production plugin, you probably should have some kind of submission rate checking or something along those lines. Okay, let's see if this still works. So let us open up the database for the time being. No, that's not what I want. That's what I want. And there's the database, and there's the form submissions table, and let's delete that record, and let us deactivate the plugin. Whenever you're building a plugin for WordPress, always make sure you deactivate it before you start testing it, so that you test the activation flow, so you know there's issues, if there's issues in the code. Or the main plugin file at least. Okay, and then let's delete the table. How do you from submissions? Let's drop the table. Need to worry about foreign key checks. Okay, and then let's start. There's no error logs yet. Let's start activating plugins. Okay, plugin activated, fine. No error logs, good. Let's go to the home page of the site. Let's go to the contact form. Okay, shortcode still works. Okay, it's still submitting. Let's go do another one. Okay, that all looks good. Let's check for error logs. No error logs. Good. Let's go back to the dashboard. Let's go to the admin page. Wow, it's like a whole new UI. I did not expect that. That's because it's using the table classes. So that's a pretty cool byproduct of this process. Not necessary, but you know, it's using the YFAT striped table classes and all of that. So that's a cool byproduct. It is though where I say, like, if you are not careful, it adds functionality you didn't ask for. And maybe I had a different UI here that I was using, like a custom UI with a CSS file. You know, it's just interesting. Okay, so let's delete one of these. Yes, I am sure I want to delete it. Doesn't it like... Oh, it has been deleted. Okay. Look at that. And there's a little animation. The other version of this didn't have the animation. That's kind of cool, actually. Wonder how it did that. That's probably a default WordPress thing. Oh, there we go. It's applying it over here. Fade out. There we go. It's applying a fade out. Good old JavaScript fade, the jQuery fade out. So, I mean, that's not a bad little bonus. But as I say, if I didn't have a UI, it might have broken my UI. I don't know for sure. But it seems to work, and it seems to be secure, and all good. So now, what I would like to do is I would like to prepare this for submission to the plugin repository area. And to do that, I need to fix some of these errors. Now, the reason this little squiggle is coming up is because I have a extension installed called PHP Sniffer and Beautifier. And that's connected up to PHP CS with the WordPress coding standards. And it picks up WordPress coding standards issues for me in the code. If I didn't have that installed, so let's actually disable that plugin. Let's disable the extension, restart the extensions, go back to the code. You'll see that it doesn't show any errors. So I don't know if there are errors in this code right now, coding standards issues. So let's see if the agent can pick any up. So, okay. Please, where's say please? Check WP learn plugin security PHP or any WordPress coding standards issues. Yeah, this is already... This I disagree with because it's already there. Okay, so I'm going to reject that one. Let's see what else there is. Now, I know there's a coding standards issue right here. There's a bunch of them. I'll show you in a second. But will plugin check pick those up? Might not. Okay, this one, I have no problem with that. That is what the others should be doing. The others should have a doc block before the function. So this function and that function, the doc block. So this is just a doc block saying what the section of the code does. But then I'm adding an action. And then before the function, there should be another doc block for the function. So it's interesting that it's not doing that on these. But it is doing that on this one down over here. So we'll accept that. And then now this is interesting. Now it's moving the action below to add the doc block to the top, which is now changing the structure of my code. I don't like that. Now, it's not the end of the world if it's done that way. I know in some of the examples that's how it is. I prefer my action hook registrations before the function callback. So that's interesting. So I'm going to accept. Look, it's also changing the description of the documentation. That's interesting. It's changing the wording, which is fine. So I'm going to allow it for now. It's changed the text domain, which is a good change. And I'm just going to put this at the top where it should be, in my opinion. Okay. So that's something an automated process wouldn't do. It wouldn't keep that in that place. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter in terms of the code execution. So it's a personal coding preference. It's what I recommend personally. It's just I find it easier to read. Other people I know recommend it. That's why I've adopted it. Other people I know and trust have recommended it. But it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not like super important. The code will still run. So that's interesting. Oh, look. I don't need this line of code. That's just superfluous code. This is something I do pick up a lot with the AI coding tools, is there's often superfluous code that it doesn't pick up and clean up. So unused variables. We'll ask it to do a check for unused variables in a bit. Okay, otherwise the rest, still some function issues going on there. But let's see if it passes. Let's see if it passes plugin check. Let's do one more check for any unused variables. Now I did not know this until I checked through the code, so I wouldn't have known to tell the AI agent to do this. So let's see here. It has not found any instance of learn plugin path being used, so let's verify that. No results, agree with that one. All the other variables are being used appropriately. I disagree, AI bot. If I go right down here, so cursor or VS Code, whatever, it's VS Code underneath, is actually showing that this is an unused variable. Oh, it's IntelliFence that's doing it. Interesting. So now I've got to tell it. Looking at the code, this seems to be a false positive. The table name variable is actually used in the SQL query, but we're using prefix form submissions. No. So now it's reverting it back to use table name, but earlier it fixed it to use prefix form submissions, which is actually, coding standards wise, is actually the right way, I think, if you're using prepare. I discovered this recently. If you're using WPDB prepare, I think WordPress coding standards doesn't allow you to use a variable name in the query. You need to use the prefix with form submissions, I think. Interesting. Okay, I'm going to reject this one for now. And I'm going to take this out manually myself. All right. So according to the bot, this code is fine. Let's see what plugin check thinks of this. So let's install the plugin check plugin and see what it tells us. Because these are the these are the checks that the plugin directory installs and runs every time a plugin is submitted, every time a plugin is closed and resubmitted. I don't think it runs it every time a plugin is updated, just because it would be quite a bit of overhead. But the plugin team is using this code, these checks, on every new plugin submitted to the repo. So if you fail these checks, your plugin is not submitted. So let's install it. And let's see what we get. Should be fun. This is taking way longer to install than I had planned. Ooh. There's the error I was telling you about. WPDB prepared was called incorrectly. The query argument must have a placeholder, which is that prefix placeholder story. And that's because it was changed to the table name. So I'm pretty sure that was an incorrect thing. Why is this plugin taking so long to install? Just download a copy. I was having trouble downloading WordPress core earlier. There might be like some kind of network issue or something. So let's just, you know what, I think I know what it might be. Anyway, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna do it this way. Okay, there we go. Oh, this takes a long time. It's almost like there's a problem with unzipping files or something in my local environment. Let me extract it manually. Like here. I'm going to delete that version because I don't trust that it's extracted correctly. And I'm going to copy this one over. Learn content plugins. This is taking forever. Ugh. Don't know why it's taking so long. Suddenly I'm going to have to check out if there's a problem with my local environment. Let's go to the place. Okay, that's done. Season errors, just that error. Good. Okay, so let's activate that guy. Happiness, no new errors. Let's go and see what it tells us. Plugin check. Okay, so let's start with that one, and we'll just focus on security to begin with, and just see what comes out. I definitely feel like there's some issue with my local environment because this should not take so long. It's kind of annoying, to be honest. Okay. Usage of a direct... Okay, so these are warnings. Usage of a direct database call is discouraged. Line 165. Let's have a look. Yeah, I mean, I'm calling WPDB insert, so it's not really wrong. Without cache undetected, yeah, I'm not going to worry about those. I've definitely seen these before. This is like something you should use if you're like calling data a lot. 320. These are all warnings. I don't consider them issues, specifically in this specific scenario. So I'm okay with that. So as far as I'm concerned, it's fine. I don't know whether these would pass or fail. You have to make a direct database call if you have a custom table. So let's do some general checks. Let's see what picks up there. I still feel like this should be quicker, so I think I'm going to have to see if there's a problem with my local environment. I use something called multipass, which might be due for an update. Okay, so no general issues. Let's check plugin repo issues. Okay, so there's some config files that I'll need to delete. That's fine. Missing license. Okay, fine. Domain path. Fine. So those I can easily fix. I wonder if we can get Cursor to fix these for us. So let's let these finish. The hidden files, that's, you know, that's a submission thing. I wouldn't have them in the final submission version. Use placeholders in WPDB prepare, line 29. Now, this is the creation of the table. That's not a correct, that's a false positive, because you can't create a table, I think. I don't think you can create. Maybe you can with WPDB prepare. I don't think you can. I think you have to pass raw SQL to TB Delta. So I'm going to call that a false positive, personally. If you know differently, let me know, but I'm going to call that a false positive. Missing unslash on line 65. Interesting. Ah. Post WP learn nonce. Oh wait, line, sorry, line, that was 274, okay. 274. 274, there, 274. I mean, I'm calling get results. And I'm, oh, so what they want is to take that and put it inside that. I get that, but I'm doing prepare there, so shush. Anyway, line 140. That's interesting. That seems to be a new one. But that's a nonce, so you wouldn't need to unslash it because you're verifying it, so it feels like that's also a false positive. Yeah, that seems okay for me. It's not necessary to prepare a query which doesn't use variable placement. Fine. Okay, these are all warnings, so that's fine. That's an error. That's probably going to give me an issue. So the fix for that is, I'll be honest, it's annoying to have to do that. But the fix for that is to do this. Personally, I don't agree with this. I think it's fine to put it into a variable. But that would be the fix, essentially. These are all warnings. Missing header, tested up to, okay. Trademarked item, that's fine. I'm expecting that. Cannot use the term plugin, so that's fine. Okay, so in general, security-wise, we're fine. There's a couple of general issues we've got to fix. I think what I'm going to do is let's fix the errors. So let's just paste that error and see what happens. Okay, so that should fix that. That's a warning, that's an error. I've just fixed that one. Those were all warnings. Okay, let's do this one. Let's going to add a bunch of stuff here. And look, it's added a whole bunch of stuff for us, which I'm actually okay with. Okay, so that's that. Right, these are all warnings. I would, in a normal environment, I would change them. I'm not going to worry about them now. So let's run the general checks again and see if we just get warnings. I could be wrong, but I feel like the warnings won't get your plugin blocked from being submitted. I feel like they will allow it, even if there are warnings. I feel like it's only if there are errors. But I'll need to check that with the plugins team. Okay, so no general errors found. That's good. Let's check plugin repo errors. I want to clear the log file and see if that error comes up again. Okay, so hidden files we know about, that's fine. That's a warning. Just checking. More warnings. $2.99 is. See, again, it's the verify nonce. To the best of what I remember, this is fine. Oh, look, it's doing verify and unslash there. So maybe it should be in the other spot. Interesting. But they are just warnings. Those are all warnings. There's an error. Tested up to is not set to the current version of WordPress. So let's update that. No, I think that's going to add that here. See, it added tested up to 6.4. So it doesn't know that WordPress has released 6.7. That shows you kind of how outdated the data always is. It's always about 6.4 came out when? We're at 6.8 coming up now. So 6.7 came out end of last year. So 6.4 would have come out. When did 6.4 come out? Go. November 2023. It's always about 2 years behind, because the data is about 2 years behind. Always remember that. And I found that to be consistent with all of these tools. The data is about 2 years behind. So anything that's happened over the last year to two, you need to give it documentation, you need to give it articles, you need to give it tutorials. I don't know the intricacies of how the LLMs work in terms of that, but the data is always behind by at least a couple of versions. All right, where were we? Okay, so that's the only other error. I'm not going to worry about the trademark terms in that for now. I should fix it before I submit, but I'm not really going to submit this plugin. So that's all good. Security we check, performance and accessibility I'm not going to worry too much about. So, in answer to the question, can AI detect security vulnerabilities? In this use case, with these vulnerabilities that I set up, very much so. I'm pretty happy with everything that it picked up. I'm pretty happy with all the implementations. It does seem to be pretty secure. I would like to try this with a block and somehow writing an insecure plugin with a block and seeing what it does. I would probably need to write a custom REST API endpoint, and I think those are secure by default. I'd have to double check. But theoretically, yes. Theoretically, it can scan your code for and automatically fix vulnerabilities. However, you will need to, whatever tool you're setting up, will need to have instructions around not making changes to the user interface or to the functionality, and only specifically focusing on plugin vulnerabilities. Because as you saw, it did tend to make suggestions that sometimes were okay, sometimes weren't. The first run through, it didn't pick up any issues. I had to give it some more context. So the prompts or the rules or the whatever that are set up for this kind of process will need to be very well defined, very strict. And this is the key thing that I've been learning about all of this, is the better you can get at writing prompts. And I'm busy going through a course at the moment that talks about how the prompting works and how the tokenization of prompts work. It's very interesting. I still don't understand all of it. But if you can get better at writing really good prompts with very clear instructions, very clear guidelines and guardrails on what it can and can't do, and continuously providing the AI tool that context, then you can get very far. Some time ago, I worked on something where I was asked to fix issues. And I would love to be able to go back to that and see if I could redo that process. But it's something that belongs to an internal process, and so I need to ask permission first. But I would love to do that with an AI coding tool and see what it results, see what it gives me. So I might do that for the next live stream. I might start digging around and finding out whether I'd be able to do that. Because that, I think, is a bit more of a complex plugin with not so obvious clues to the fact that there is insecure code. That might be a very interesting one to solve. I'll see if I can figure that out. If I can't, then I'll have to come up with something else next week. But I think that's where I'm going to call it today. What I am going to do, if you want to check out this code, I'm going to submit it as a branch to this repository. So let us do that now. So let's go cd wp learn plugin security, and let's go get checkout -b AI fixes security. Yeah, let's check the status of what's happening there. Okay, a whole bunch of files and changes. So let us, I'm just going to go all, because I'm fine with everything being added. Let's commit it. John fixes vulns using AI cursor. I'll come back later and add the link in the commit. And I can't add the commit, can I? Oh well. I'll just have to commit this like it is. So if you want to check out the code, here you can find it. My name, Jonathan Posture, WP Learn Plugin Security. You can switch to that branch, and you can get all the updates and all the changes. So you're welcome to go check that out and see how it compares. If you have comments on the fixes it's made, you're welcome to leave those comments as issues in that repo, whatever the case may be. I don't mind. But yeah, that was kind of fun, I'll be honest. So that's where I'm going to call it today. It's almost an hour and a half's worth of live streaming. I think I'm feeling a bit like I need a break. I can never make a 2-hour live stream unless I'm dealing with something a bit bigger. But yeah, I set aside the 2 hours, but I generally never make it to 2 hours. But that's my bit for today. So thank you for joining. Thank you for watching. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, like, comment, subscribe, link, follow, share, all that stuff. And I'll see you next week with whatever else I decide to do. Thanks very much. Bye.